Good evening. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Kettering City Council. Today's date is April 12th, 2022, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to start with a brief invocation. Dear Lord, thank you for your abundant blessings and surrounding us with stewardship and a supportive community in Kettering. We thank you for the ability to engage in useful work and for the honor of bearing these important responsibilities. We are grateful for your boundless love for all of us. Please continue to give us the strength and compassion with which to serve, and grant us the wisdom to make appropriate decisions. Help us remain humble and grateful for the opportunity to lead. Guide this council so that we may work in harmony while serving our citizens with integrity and purpose. Allow us to fulfill the responsibilities entrusted in us by our residents, but also ask everyone to please keep all of those that are involved in the struggles in Ukraine in your thoughts and prayers in the weeks to come. I would like to recognize our Miami Valley Communications Council TV operator, Mike Soproni. Mike, thanks for your assistance up there. There he's waving. Okay. All right. We need approval of the minutes from the March 22nd, 2022 council meeting and workshop.
Your Honor, I have reviewed the March 22nd council meeting minutes as well as the workshop, and I do find them in order, and I move for their approval.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. The motion, call the roll.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mayor Lehner?
Yes. Okay. We now have several proclamations for this evening. The first one will be the proclamation, Partners for Healthy Youth. I'm sorry, they're all pointing at this. I need to make an appointment before we move into proclamations. The appointment is for Marie Seiler to the Partners for Healthy Youth, term ending 12/31/24. Is Dr. Seiler here tonight by any chance? Okay, she is not, but she is going to be an excellent addition to that committee. Now,
excuse me, Your Honor. I'm sorry, that would be an appointment by council to that board, so there would need to be a motion, a second,
okay.
and a vote, please.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's moved and seconded twice. Call the roll. Call the roll. Okay.
Do it by acclamation. Each of them do it by acclamation.
We'll go ahead and call the roll.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mayor Lehner?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. We now, unless anyone has an objection, we'll move on to a proclamation. The first of these will be one for the Arab American Heritage Month. Yusuf El Sain will be accepting the proclamation, and I will come on down there. And where's Mr. I'm probably butchering the name. El Sain, is that correct? El Zain. Okay. Close. People with you. Would you like to introduce them?
We're honored to be here.
Yeah, hi, good evening all. My name is Haytham Sayal, and this is my daughter Rianne and her friend Ren. And of course our
Masood. I was going to say yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm just going to read this. We need a microphone. Yeah, that's better, okay. Whereas, throughout the United States, the month of April is recognized as Arab American Heritage Month to celebrate the culture and the many contributions Arab Americans have had on various aspects of American society. And whereas Arab Americans have made valuable contributions to many aspects of American society in medicine, law, business, education, technology, government, military service, and culture. And whereas, since migrating to America, men and women of Arab descent have shared their rich culture and traditions with neighbors, friends, and communities across the state and country. And whereas Arab Americans have also enriched our society by fully taking part in the entrepreneurial American spirit, creating jobs and prosperity. And whereas Arab Americans share the desire to see a peaceful and diverse society in the United States, where every individual is treated equally and feels safe and able to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. And whereas the city of Kettering is thankful for Kettering's Arab American community and their many contributions to the spirit of our city. Now therefore, I, Peggy Lehner, Mayor of the City of Kettering, Ohio, on behalf of City Council and the community, do hereby proclaim April 2022 to be Arab American Heritage Month in the City of Kettering. And on behalf of City Council, City Administration, and the residents of Kettering, are proud to celebrate and honor the contributions and heritage of Arab Americans. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Hi. Would you like to say?
Well, the only thing I did is this morning with Ms. Lashana, I shared a presentation that I hope you had the chance to go through it. We can entertain questions now, or if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. The only thing I want to do is thank you for this honor to receive this from the city of Kettering. We're all residents and neighbor of the city. And this means a lot to us. We have proclamation that starts from the President of the United States that we received last week from his office. The Governor, DeWine, sent us his, Montgomery County, and some neighboring jurisdictions in Dayton. We really appreciate you. We thank you very much for giving us this honor. Maybe the youngest would like to say something?
Thank you.
I don't know.
Thank you for this honor.
I don't know who put together that presentation, and I confess I did not scrutinize all 52 pages, but I got to tell you, that is an excellent presentation about Arab Americans and your history and the folks that have impacted our society and our world here in America. And I would encourage you to get that. Maybe we can get that on our website. Somehow we need to get that out. So whoever put it together, it was excellent.
Anyone want to lay claims to it?
This is the back sheet of it.
Oh, is it on the back sheet? Okay.
Arab America Foundation out of Washington, D.C., championing this effort to receive this recognition and to make sure that we're part of this community, we belong to this community, and we just need to live in peace and harmony.
Thank you. It was great.
Well, thank you all so much, each and every one of you. This is my probably 6th or 7th proclamation that I've attended. And every time the proclamation is read, it gives me goosebumps like I'm listening to it for the first time. So, like Rand said, it is a great honor for us. Thank you so much, and hopefully, the ultimate goal is to make April a permanent Arab American Heritage Month. Thank you all.
I would like to add, I'm inviting everyone to the Lebanese Festival, August 26, 27, and 28. At St. Ignatius, they moved to the 50 Nut Road in Washington Township.
Is that Tony? Is that?
I also,
I didn't recognize him.
It's all about the food.
I appreciate that Arab Americans here are both from the Catholic Marianist tradition and as well as the Islam tradition that's celebrating Ramadan this month. And I know that you delayed breaking the fast to be here for today, and really appreciate that.
No, absolutely, and actually that's what another thing I wanted to say. I looked at the agenda, and especially with volunteer weeks, and you guys have a jammed agenda ahead of you. So at the end of this presentation, we're going to excuse ourselves because of breaking the fast, and I'm sure these ladies are thirsty and hungry.
So am I.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm probably going to get 6 people yelling at me that I'm doing this next part from the wrong place, but I'm doing it right here. I'm going to now read a proclamation for Arbor Day, and who is receiving this one? Okay. Nice to meet you. Yeah. Here, we'll turn around. Okay. I'll read this. Whereas Arbor Day is a special day set aside for the planting of trees and is observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas Arbor Day calls attention to the need for conservation, stressing how essential it is to maintain and protect the beauty and usefulness of our natural forests, as well as the importance of trees to conserve the land in all areas. And whereas Arbor Day in Kettering is celebrated by the planting of trees at Habitat Environmental Center and Southfield Woods on Saturday, April 16, 2022, which is part of Kettering's annual Tree Fest activities. And whereas, because the city's commitment to enhance the scenic beauty of our community, the City of Kettering was awarded the Tree City USA Growth Award by the National Arbor Day Foundation for demonstrating environmental improvement for higher level tree care. And whereas the continuation of planting trees within our community will enhance the quality of life for all residents and add to the scenic wonders that will be enjoyed by generations to come. Now therefore, I, Peggy Weiner, Mayor of the City of Kettering, Ohio, on behalf of City Council and the community, does hereby proclaim April 16, 2022 to be Arbor Day in the City of Kettering, Ohio, and urge all citizens to recognize the importance of planting trees as the embodiment of life and for the economic and social growth of our community. And I'll present this to you here. Thank you. Would you like to say something?
Would love to. First, thank you, Mayor Lehner and Council for the support. As the Park Superintendent, couldn't be more honored to accept the proclamation, but for our 40th Tree City USA recognition. So I can tell you that I think I mentioned it last year. That's the last thing that I'm going to let falter through my time. Being 40 years as a Tree City USA is important to us. Super proud of the work that we do, not only for the community, but for the natural environment in terms of the tree program that we put on. So as Mayor Lehner mentioned, we have our annual Tree Fest on Saturday at Southdale Park. And we've got a great deal of trees to put in the ground, both saplings and large stock, and we're looking forward to volunteers to come out. You guys are more than welcome as well to join us. Get your hands dirty, plant some trees in the ground, and hopefully there's some good weather. So one person I'd be remiss not to recognize is Carrie Miles. She does a tremendous job as our program supervisor over in our environmental ed program, and she's put on a great program this year, along with some help from our volunteers from the tree committee. So we look forward to it, appreciate the support, the continued support, and again, thanks.
The next proclamation is going to be read by Vice Mayor Fisher for National Volunteer Week.
I do have a proclamation. Whereas National Volunteer Week is time to shine on the people and causes that inspire us to serve. Volunteerism empowers individuals to find their purpose, passion, and work towards meaningful change. And whereas the theme, National Volunteer Week, is Celebrate Service. And whereas National Volunteer Week was established in 1974 by the Points of Light Foundation, And whereas National Volunteer Week celebrates the power of volunteers to tackle challenges and be a positive force that transforms the world. And whereas during the week, all over the nation, volunteers will be recognized by their commitment to service, demonstrating that every individual has the power to make a difference in creating healthy, strong, and vibrant communities. And whereas each year we recognize the people and causes that inspire service by thanking volunteers who lend their time, talent, and voice to make a difference in our community during times of triumph and times of adversity. And whereas our nation was founded on a spirit of volunteerism, and the talents and energies of American volunteers are one of our nation's greatest assets and certainly one of Kettering's greatest resources. And whereas the City of Kettering Volunteer Program has been blessed for 43 years with volunteers who are committed to making Kettering the place people are proud to call home. Now, therefore, Peggy Lehner, Mayor of the City of Kettering, Ohio, and on behalf of the City Council and the community, do hereby proclaim April 17th to the 23rd to be National Volunteer Week in the City of Kettering, and urge all fellow citizens to volunteer in the community as we continue together to bring about positive change. And it is signed by our great Mayor Lehner.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Fisher.
Carrie, I think you're going to speak to us about this.
Yeah.
You want to come? Sorry, I'm not going to come.
Go on into the next one. Okay. What'd you do? Straighten my name?
Straighten name.
Was it the right name?
Yeah.
Okay.
If I got
Just
it a little
checking.
too far to the left now, doggone.
Just turn your head.
Okay. Carrie is also going to make a presentation here, so I'm just going to turn
So,
over.
Mayor Lehner and City Council, thank you so much for this proclamation and for joining the Kettering Volunteer Advisory Council in really celebrating our volunteers during National Volunteer Week next week. This is a time when we recognize the volunteers in our community who give so freely of their time, talent, and voices to better the lives of those around them. Volunteers inspire us to think creatively and to put the needs of others ahead of their own. The simple act of showing appreciation to these generous individuals through a verbal or a written thank you, a handshake, or other act of kindness perpetuates the goodwill fostered by their actions. The City of Kettering is truly blessed to have a community of individuals so willing to help so many in so many different capacities, enhancing daily operations, expanding programs and events, and strengthening our neighborhoods. The success of the volunteer program comes not only from the dedication of the volunteers who are engaged, but also from the staff that work alongside these volunteers, as well as your leadership from the City Council and Mayor Lehner. Our appreciation goes out to all of you for your collaboration and support of our volunteer program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carrie. I really appreciate it. One of my deepest concerns during the whole COVID period was the devastation it was causing to the volunteer programs in Kettering that we've always considered just one of our most important programs, and so many people have come to rely on the work of those volunteers. But it seems like people are flowing back in, and they're alive and well and doing great and doing wonderful work. So I am more than happy to welcome this ceremony here tonight. And I believe you are going to lead off.
And I just want to say that is absolutely a testament to Mary Lou, Nick, and then now Dawn, that our program was able to continue in a different way, but to continue during COVID.
Right.
So
Right.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
And now it is my honor to announce our Mayor's Award for Volunteer Service, our adult volunteer. So the Mayor's Award for Volunteer Service was created in 1983 as a way to honor outstanding volunteers who are making valuable contributions to the community through volunteer service in a wide variety of categories. Recipients of this award must either be a resident of Kettering or the volunteer service should be performed in Kettering. Tonight, in celebration of National Volunteer Week, we are pleased to honor both an adult and a youth volunteer. Our adult volunteer, Karen Sejas, retired after 25 years of service to the City of Kettering in November of 2011. While an employee, Karen served in both the human resource and the finance departments. After retirement, she wasted no time jumping back in to continue her service to the city, this time in a volunteer capacity. Her volunteer efforts are concentrated in the administrative systems and human resource departments. Over the past 10 years, she has given more than 2,300 hours of service to our community. She helps scan, shred, organize, file, and lend her expertise, as well as helping with archives in the departments. In addition to her willingness to continue to learn new skills and help wherever needed, she brings encouragement and compassion to everyone she works alongside. Her nominators have this to say about Karen. Karen deserves the Mayor's Award for Volunteer Service for her unwavering, dependable, loyal, valuable contributions to our departments. She gives tirelessly and is the most conscientious volunteer one could hope for. She brings with her expertise, energy, enthusiasm, and commitment, and consistently delivers high-quality work. She is always willing to share her knowledge. Karen's loyalty and dedication to the city make her a valuable volunteer and team member. So, Karen, congratulations. Congratulations. Very much.
Karen is one of the more familiar faces around. Haven't forgotten you for the last 20 years. It's great to see you. Thank you.
Nice to see you.
We do have a little gift here from the city for you, clock, so you can keep time, so you can show up to volunteer at the right time. Doesn't have an alarm. And then we also have a plaque.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for everything you've done.
Okay.
Would you like to say anything?
Yes, just a few words. I'm happy and very pleased to be nominated and ultimately selected as this year's recipient of the Mayor's Award for Volunteer Service. It's an honor to be selected, and I am grateful for being recognized. The City of Kettering is blessed with many wonderful volunteers who are deserving of this reward, so I am happy to accept it, also on behalf of all the city and volunteers. As she mentioned, I came to the city in October 1986 as a part-time temporary employee to help in human resources. And then I worked a bit in the finance department because payroll clerk was retiring, and they interviewed me and hired me for that position. And then a human resource manager position opened up, and so I also went to human resources and completed my time here in a paid status at that time. During my tenure with the city, I had the pleasure of working with many wonderful, dedicated volunteers. 2 months after my retirement, I decided that it was time for me to volunteer. And what better place than the City of Kettering? The City of Kettering employees and volunteers alike have passion and dedication for what they do here and take pride in a job well done. As both an employee for 25 years and now a volunteer for 10, I have been challenged, supported, and very much appreciated. I will always be an advocate for our fine city, and I look forward to continuing in my role as a volunteer in the future. Thank you again, and I'm very grateful for being recognized for this award.
Congratulations, Karen, and thank you for your service. It is now my pleasure to introduce our youth volunteer. This is Miss Chloe Adkins. Chloe is a third grade student at Indian Riffle Elementary School, and at only 9 years old, she has demonstrated a level of empathy and compassion beyond her years. For the past 4 years, Chloe has volunteered with her brother Jake at the Kettering Backpack Program. Over this time, she has prepared thousands of bags for children in need of food. Following a school lesson where she learned of a young boy facing homelessness, she organized a program called Kind Cakes. This program collects birthday cake supplies to prepare kits that are then supplied to shelters and food pantries. This provides a way to celebrate birthday milestones in situations where they typically do not occur. During these efforts, Chloe was diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma, yet still continued to pack bags and make cake kits in between her treatments and hospital stays. When the good news came that she was cancer-free, she again found a way to pay it forward. Chloe received blood transfusions during her treatments, and when she learned about the critical need for blood due to shortages, she responded by helping to organize blood drives, one of which is this Thursday at Town and Country Shopping Center. Her nominator, Karen, one of our gifted teachers, said, "In my 24 years of teaching, I have never met anyone like Chloe. Even though I am her teacher, she has taught me more than I could ever teach her." Congratulations, Chloe.
That was a wonderful, wonderful testament to you are a really special young lady. Want to be mayor? I'd like to be mayor for the day. Want to be mayor for the day? No? Okay. Well, congratulations. And there's a little plaque you can hang on the wall. Get mom and dad to frame it for you. Okay? It's got your name on it. How about that? My name, too. You could be mayor for the day and you could sign all kinds of things. Thank you so much for all the work you've done and best luck in school. Okay? Yeah.
I just wanted to let you know, if you are so inclined to support Chloe in her blood drive this week, you can sign up to donate blood by going to www.donortime.com and use the code 1624. And again, that blood drive is at Town and Country right here in Kettering. Thank you.
So I want to uplift her mother, Kelly. So Kelly, what a great role model to introduce her children to serving. And that's what stirs it up, and I hope everyone is inspired.
Thank you. The rest is not going to be quite as exciting. I'd like at this point to call on Sean for any certification positions.
Your Honor, we have 2 certifications this evening.
Okay, we'll hold up for them.
But you just
Usually you don't have. We're going to just give you all a second to change the buzzer. Introduce Mom. We'll proceed with
Your Honor, we have 2 certifications this evening. The first one, Planning Commission is recommending approval of PC 22-003 zoning map amendment. A public hearing regarding this request will be held on Tuesday, April the 12th, 2022 at the Kettering City Council meeting. Our next certification this evening is Planning Commission is recommending approval of PC 22-005 zoning map amendment. A public hearing on this request will be held on Tuesday, April 26, 2022 at the Kettering City Council meeting.
We have 2 public hearings tonight. Tonight we have a public hearing on an application to rezone land at 2125 Economic Development Overlay District Number 14, B. The Planning Commission recommended that the application be approved. The Planning Commission's certification package is made part of the record. First, city staff will make a presentation, and the applicant will have an opportunity to present. After those presentations, we will take comments for or against the application from those persons who are present tonight and wish to be heard. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes per person. Now I will open the public hearing. Any person that intends to speak to City Council tonight about this matter should stand, raise your right hand, and take the oath. Okay, we've got 2 people. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you present tonight before City Council is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do.
I do.
Okay. Please be seated, except for you. You can stay up. I now am going to call on Ryan. I'm trying to remember your last name, Ryan. Holmes, yeah. To give a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good evening, Council. This first public hearing on the agenda is a fairly straightforward request. It deals with the property at the northwest corner of the intersection of Woodman and Dorothy Lane. It used to house the Throckmorton Statuary and Garden Center. It's been vacant for, I believe, about 4 years, about half an acre in size. And the request tonight is to rezone that property from the Economic Development Overlay 14, or ED 14, to the B Business District. The surrounding land uses are to the east and south are major thoroughfares, Dorothy and Woodman, and all the other sides of the property that directly abut it are either commercial uses that are vacant or occupied by different uses such as grocery stores, restaurants, and automotive fueling centers. Across Woodman Drive to the east is the Rolling Fields neighborhood. And just to give the viewers a view of how it looks from the ground, here's a picture taken from looking northwest from the intersection of Woodman and Dorothy toward the site. You can see the building in the foreground. That's the vacant building on the site we're talking about. The white building in the background is the former Aaron's Rent, which is also vacant, but that building, that property is not a part of this request. The surrounding zoning, that peach area is the Economic Development Overlay 14. Red is B Business, and that's what the request is tonight, to rezone the subject property to. And then the purple area, that is our industrial or business park zoning district, and of course yellow is residential. And the proposed zoning is to rezone that one parcel on the corner to B Business, shown on the screen now. And the Planning Commission had their public hearing on this item at their March 7th meeting, and at that meeting they reviewed it based upon the criteria that they review these under per the zoning code, and they recommended it be approved as requested. And under the role of City Council, which is laid out in Section 1153.12.8 of Kettering Zoning Code, there's 7 factors that Council shall consider when reviewing rezonings, and I'll go through those on the next couple slides. No single factor is controlling. They should be weighed in relation to other standards, and a lot of them overlap. Factor 1 is really meant to make sure that the requested rezoning is consistent with any adopted plans, including the comprehensive plan of the city. This area of town, that's the future land use plan and Kettering's most recent comprehensive plan. This area is highlighted as sub-regional commercial, which the B business zoning is appropriate for that area. Factor 2 deals with ensuring that the uses that would be permitted if the rezoning is approved wouldn't have a negative impact on the adjoining land uses and wouldn't be inconsistent with the future development of that area. This factor has been determined to be met. Just to give that same map we showed earlier, the subject property is surrounded by, directly abuts major thoroughfares, Woodman to the east, Dorothy to the south, and commercial uses to the north and west, and then Rolling Fields is directly across the street to the east. Factor 3 deals with City Council shall consider that the suitability or unsuitability of the tract for its use as presently zoned. Just to give a quick overview, economic development overlays were created in the city starting in really the late 80s. They were very good at generating good initial development. They were very specific to what kind of uses are permitted, what kind of design is permitted on the property. The plans that would allow the land to develop were fairly specific. As those properties have changed hands over time and uses have changed and the economy's changed, they're not good at generating redevelopment. So a lot of the uses permitted on the property today are also permitted under the B zoning district, but it's just a little bit more clear on what expectations are required on the property. So if you look at the surrounding zoning, There have been 2 similar rezonings in the past. The property that contains Applebee's was rezoned in 2015, and that had to be rezoned because they wanted to change the awnings on the property, and the EDO didn't allow them to change that design. So we rezoned it to a base zoning district to let them do that. And then the Aldi property is in a different EDO, EDO 18. That was rezoned in 2018. I'm not 100% sure why that was rezoned at the time. I'm assuming it was design related. And then one of the certifications tonight is at the southwest corner of ED 14, and that is where the Krispy Kreme was and Rapid Fire Pizza was, and that's another rezoning that is triggered due to a new user who wants to use the property, but the current regulations of the EDO don't allow them to do what they want to do. Factor number 4, health, safety, and welfare. The ordinance must bear a substantial relationship to the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare. Staff believes that it does. Factor number 5 overlaps a lot with factor number 1. Certain public policies in favor of the rezoning may be considered. As I just mentioned, the EDOs worked really well early on when the land was initially being developed. But when you're talking about redevelopment and economic development moving forward, they don't work quite as well because they're a little bit too specific. So this factor, the rezoning is appropriate to meet that factor. The size of the tract is appropriate for the zoning district requested, so that meets factor number 6. And then finally, factor number 7 is fairly general, and that is that City Council may consider any other factors that it deems relevant to the rezoning application. I'm not aware of any, unless there's any questions. But again, just to give a quick overview, this rezoning request was reviewed by the Planning Commission at their March 7th meeting, and it would rezone the half-acre piece of land at the northwest corner of the intersection of Dorothy and Woodman Drive from the ED 14 to B Business. The Planning Commission recommended approval, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Excuse me. Thank you very much for your presentation. At this point, I would like to call on the applicant to give their presentation. Okay, all right, thank you. Okay. It is now time for public comments. Public comments will be limited to 5 minutes per person. Each person may speak only once. Please do not repeat material that has already been covered. Before you begin, please state your name and address and that you took the oath. I do not believe there is anyone who wished to speak in favor of the amendment. Is that true? No one took the oath. Anyone opposed to the amendments? Okay, seeing none. Okay, that will close the public hearing. The hearing is now closed. City Council will consider legislation regarding this matter at a future meeting. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to the next public hearing. Tonight we have a public hearing on an application to rezone land at 950 Foyer Boulevard from O Office to BP Business Park. The Planning Commission recommended that the application be approved. The Planning Commission's certification packet is made part of the record. First, city staff will make a presentation, then the applicant will have an opportunity to present. After those presentations, we will take comments for or against the application from those persons who are present tonight and wish to be heard. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes per person. Now I will open the public hearing. Any person that intends to speak to City Council tonight about this matter should stand, raise your right hand, and take the oath. Is there anyone other than Mr. Robillard? Okay, we have one up here. Thank you. All right. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you present tonight before City Council is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do.
I do.
Okay. Please be seated. I'd like to call on Tom Robillard at this point to present the city staff's presentation.
Thank you, Your Honor. This particular case involves 950 Ford Drive. It is part of the Kettering Business Park and is located in the southwest quadrant of the Kettering Business Park. This particular rezoning was initiated primarily by the current property owner and the future property owner for the former Synchrony buildings. The primary purpose that they are looking for is to expand some of the types of businesses that might be permitted in this particular building. It's a very large building. I believe it's 800,000 square feet, 400,000 square feet, sorry. It's just a very, very big space, held Synchrony Financial, like I said. The future property owner would like to attract different businesses and multiple businesses there rather than just one. They find that just limiting it to office restricts the particular potential users of that property. The Planning Commission did review this case. They held a public hearing and recommended approval. The current zoning on this case is O office. We did that primarily at the behest of the previous property owner, primarily because it was Synchrony Financial, just a strictly office use, and those owners at the time felt that that was the best zoning district for them. Proposal is for a business park zoning district. Like I said, the Planning Commission did recommend approval, and similar to as Ryan presented earlier, and I will go over that rather quickly because he just spoke of all those, but touch on the important factors. The first being consistency with our comprehensive plan. In this case, it is the comprehensive plan calls for a professional office and business park uses. Both the office district and the business park district both fit that criteria. Factor two, adverse impacts on neighboring lands. We feel that the particular use, the business park district, will not have any negative impacts on the adjoining land. In fact, the properties to the north of this are zoned business park district and have had little impact on neighboring properties. Factor three, suitability of the as presently zoned. Although it is zoned office, which is perfectly fine, the property owner feels that they can attract a lot more businesses there with a business park designation. Factor four, health, safety, and general welfare. We believe it meets this criteria. Factor five, public policy. Again, we feel it meets that criteria. And six, size and tract. And seven, any other factors that you might feel appropriate. Just to conclude, this Planning Commission did recommend approval of this after a public hearing. There was no persons present to give any testimony for or against at that meeting. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Robillard?
I think Tom, you say attract. The present owner feels like we'll be able to attract more business as a business park zoned.
Correct.
What would be a few examples of great differences then that they could possibly be attracting or wanting to look for?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. There is a significant, well, not a significant, but there is quite a few extra uses that are permitted in the business park versus the office, and vice versa as well. There's a few uses permitted in office that are not permitted in business park district. But some examples where it would be expanded are business services, primarily in the industrial type uses, but laboratory and specialized facilities, manufacturing, fabrication, product assembly are just some of those extra uses that are permitted in business park, not permitted in office.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Robillard. At this time, does the applicant wish to make a presentation? Come on now.
Hello, I'm Dean Miller from Industrial Commercial Properties. Don't really have a presentation either, other than to make my presence known in case there are any questions. Really, the purpose is to broaden the uses, to turn these into a speculative building where we're looking to attract a different mix of tenants. And in that world, the broadest list we can get is best. But we do see these as primarily office, possibly light industrial buildings is the intent. Any questions? I'd be glad to try to answer.
Okay. See none, but thanks for coming
Thank you.
down tonight and making yourself available. It is now time for public comments. Public comments will be limited to 5 minutes per person. Each person may speak only once. Please do not repeat material that has already been covered. Before you begin, please state your name and address and that you took the oath. I believe we have no one who wished to speak in favor of the amendment, nor anyone who wished to speak in opposition to the amendment. Is that true? Okay. Not seeing anyone. Okay. At this point, we will close the public hearing. The hearing is now closed. City Council will consider legislation regarding this matter at a future meeting. Okay. We will now take any public comments on legislation before us tonight. Anyone wishing to speak before council with comments on or new information about the legislation on tonight's agenda may do so at this time. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. Speakers must state their name and address. Comments should be addressed to council. If you have comments that are not about the legislation on tonight's agenda, there will be an opportunity for those to be heard later in the meeting. Did anyone wish to address council tonight on any of the legislation? Okay, seeing no one. Okay, we will now move on to ordinances in second reading, and I will call on Mrs. Fisher to introduce the first item.
Your Honor, I do have an ordinance to levy special assessments for the construction and repair of curbs, sidewalks, drive approaches, and related appurtenances. I can never say that word, for the Marshall Road resurfacing, East David South to Corporation Project. It's city project number 02120H. It is requested by the engineering department, and I move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved. Does anyone have any? Well, we'll call the staff first. Steve Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. This ordinance in second reading this evening will levy the assessments for repairing curbs, sidewalks, and drive approaches as part of the 2021 project on Marshall Road between David Road and the South Corporation limit. We have completed the public notice requirements for these assessments. We did not receive any objections. The period to pay cash for property owners that are being assessed will be August 5th. If property owners do not pay cash by that time, it will be placed on property taxes beginning in January 2023. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions for Mr. Bergstresser?
When will residents be notified of the levy?
They'll be notified of the ordinance upon passage by City Council.
And then they can call the city with further questions?
Absolutely. They receive a letter with contact information for engineering department if they have questions.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Okay, hearing none, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mayor Lehner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have an ordinance to levy special assessments for the construction of repair of curbs, sidewalks, drive approaches, and related appurtenances for the 2021 curb, sidewalk, and drive approach program, city project number 05-121, that is requested by the engineering department. I move for approval.
Second?
Okay, Mr. Bergstresser?
Thank you, Your Honor. Similar to the previous ordinance, this one is for the 2021 curb, sidewalk, and drive approach repair program. Be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Bergstresser? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mayor Lehner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have an ordinance to amend the text of various sections of the City of Kettering zoning code. This is being requested by the Planning and Development Department. I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Robillard, would you like to make comment?
Over here. Over here.
Where'd you go?
Thank you, Your Honor. This particular amendment is proposed, as proposed, corrects and clarifies several sections of the zoning code. As Mr. Roller talked about during the public hearing, we review our zoning code occasionally, periodically, to make updates to clarify problem areas. In this particular case, several areas are being clarified and fixed, particularly regarding permitted uses, accessory uses, signs, landscaping, some architecture, and definitions. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Robillard? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Kleepass?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing acceptance of a donation from Dorwood Optimist Club for the Rad Kids Children's Safety Program. Move for approval.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Mark, would you like to comment?
Thank you, Your Honor. This would allow us to accept $500 from the Dorwood Optimist Club to be used for the police department's Rad Kids Rad program to help us defray costs. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Schwederman? Okay. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Kleepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the use of competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes or a cooperative purchasing program to purchase 2 accessible vans for the Latham Senior Center Transportation Program. The estimated cost is $86,000, and this is being requested by the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department. I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Schwederman.
Thank you, Your Honor. This will allow us to continue the purchasing process for 2 accessible vans utilized by our Charles I. Latham Senior Center Transportation Program. These will be accessible vans, and the vans are funded through the generous donation of the Latham family that we discussed at a previous council meeting. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I do have a question. What purpose are the vans actually used for? What type of trips are we talking about?
Say again, Your Honor.
What
is the
type
purpose
of trips are we talking about in these vans? Are these individual trips that?
Yeah, so we have I'll say a number of transportation programs at the CIL that involve either like trip transportation, where we'll put a bunch of folks on a bus and go on our routes. We'll have transportation that involves a much larger capacity. We have 16 passenger vans that we utilize at the CIL. And then we have accessible vans, and these are what we're talking about this evening, essentially minivans that are used to assist the members of our transportation program at the CIL to get to and from appointments. So it's just a little smaller version of our larger program that is frankly more convenient and a little quicker.
Okay. It could take someone to a doctor's appointment or something like that. That's right. All right, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, call the roll.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Kleepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for a grant from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. Estimated cost is $150,000. It is requested by Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department. I move for approval.
Second.
Okay. Once again, Mark, Mr. Schwederman.
Thank you, Your Honor. This will be an application to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources Recreation Trails Program, grant program. It would be for the renovation and construction of accessible path and trail improvements at Pondview Park. If awarded funding from ODNR, we would anticipate a project in 2023. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Schwederman? Seeing none, call the roll.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Kleepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept and administer a grant from the Kettering Parks Foundation for the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department Financial Assistance Program. The estimated cost is $9,500 with zero budgeted, and it is requested by the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department, and I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Schwederman.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is a continuation of a program that we've had for several years in partnership with our Parks Foundation. The Parks Foundation is granting $9,500 to Parks and Recreation Department to administer grants that would allow participants of the programs at our Recreation Department that are unable to afford that participation. So it's essentially helping with defray the cost of programs for our low-income residents. It's a very successful program over the last several years, or a very beneficial program, I should say, and we thank our Parks Foundation for their annual support for this. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, anyone have any questions for Mr. Schwederman?
Just one, Your Honor.
Mr. Duke.
Mark, does that program ever run out of money? I mean, are we able to help everyone that, you know, of low income that needs assistance in the program? I guess is what I mean.
Yeah, the fortunate thing about this is we work with the Parks Foundation, who supplies us with an allotment of funds, and we have a very close working relationship within in the administration of that to ensure that we're meeting the need. So the amount can vary from year to year.
But, okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, call the roll.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Kleepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution amending Resolution Number 10703-22 regarding the 4 Boulevard Improvement Project, Smithville Road to Woodman Drive, Project Number 02-140F. The estimated cost is $2,473,155.67. That's estimated. The amount budgeted is $1,975,000. It's requested by the Engineering Department. I move for approval.
Second?
Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. This resolution will authorize the expenditure of additional funds in the amount of $498,155.67 for the 4 Boulevard Improvements Project, which runs from Smithville Road to Woodman Drive. The original budget for this project was $1,975,000, but additional funds are requested this evening due to higher than expected bid prices. The project will include concrete repair of deteriorating curbs, sidewalk, and driveway approaches on 4, full-depth pavement replacement in certain sections, as well as a mill and overlay of the entire asphalt roadway surface. Be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions? Okay. Seeing none, call the roll.
Mr. Kleepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Mayor Laner, I have a resolution amending Resolution Number 10678-22 regarding the West Loop Road and Southern Boulevard Traffic Signal Replacement Project, City Project Number 02-112J. This is being requested by the Engineering Department. The estimated cost is $341,643.79. The amount budgeted is $200,000. I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. This resolution will authorize the expenditure of additional funds in the amount of $141,643.79 for the West Loop Road and Southern Boulevard Traffic Signal Replacement Project. The original budget for this project was $200,000, but additional funds are requested this evening due to higher than expected bid prices. This project will replace the existing traffic signal at West Loop Road and Southern Boulevard with a mast arm signal. Be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions?
Do you mind reiterating why the bids were higher than expected this time?
Yes, for this particular project, we only received one bid. and that bid was higher than what was anticipated and budgeted. Some feedback we've heard from the contractor that bid the project. Really, it comes down to labor issues in the construction industry, which have been ongoing for years and frankly have been exacerbated in the last year or so. But then also higher than expected material prices, particularly when it comes to the steel poles that are required for the mast arms.
Any other questions? You'll all be happy to know we are halfway through with the ordinances. Call the roll.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mayor Lehner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution directing the city engineer to prepare and file renewed, recalculated, amended, and/or consolidated assessments for street lighting. Move for approval.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. This resolution will authorize the engineering department to prepare and file renewed, recalculated, amended, and consolidated assessments for our annual street lighting assessment program. These assessments are authorized under Chapter 947.02 of our city code that requires a resolution to be passed enabling us to renew and recalculate the annual assessments. There is no change in the assessment rates for 2022, and the list of assessments is on file with the Office of the Clerk of Council and will be advertised per requirements. Be happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions from Mr. Bergstresser? Okay, see none, call the roll.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mayor Lehner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into agreements with the Ohio Department of Transportation to allow the city of Kettering to serve as responsible lead agency for administration of the West Avenue Bridge Project, City Project Number 03-948, ODOT Project MOT-West, Avenue Bridge, PID 116012. Move for approval.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. This resolution will authorize the city to enter into an agreement with ODOT to allow the city to serve as the responsible lead agency for the West Avenue Bridge project. The proposed project will replace the existing bridge superstructure and with other related work to support that effort. The Ohio Department of Transportation recently awarded up to $473,315 in municipal bridge program funding for construction of this project starting in fall of 2023. The estimated total cost of the project is $568,000, which includes engineering, right of acquisition, and construction. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Go
Do you have an estimate on how long that construction will take once it has begun?
Probably no more than 6 to 9 months at the most. Should be a fairly short project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, please call the roll.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mayor Lehner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to use competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes to contract for the replacement of 2 original boilers within the Kettering Recreation Complex. Estimated cost is $225,000, requested by Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department. I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Schwederman.
Thank you, Your Honor. This would be for the replacement of 2 boilers at the Kettering Recreation Complex. The project is included in our capital improvement budget for 2022 at $225,000. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Schwederman? Seeing none, call the roll.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mayor Lehner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to use competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes to contract for the replacement of existing plexiglass and safety netting within the Kettering area ice arena. Estimated cost and budget is both $25,000. It is requested by Parks, Rec, and Cultural Arts Department, and I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Schwederman.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is a maintenance item at our CIL, at our ice arena. for the replacement of the plexiglass above the dasher boards, as well as the safety netting around the facility for the protection of the patrons. It is included in our capital improvement plan at a budget of $25,000. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions? Okay. Seeing none, call the roll.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to use competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes to contract for painting of the main pool and Adventure Reef Water Park accessories at the Kettering Recreation Complex. The estimated cost is $40,000. That is the amount budgeted. It's requested by Parks, Recreation, and Culture Arts Department. I move for approval.
Second?
Okay, Mr. Sweet.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is, again, a budgeted item for capital improvement at $40,000. We anticipate spending approximately $30,000 on the painting of the main pool and an additional $10,000 for painting some of the water park accessories in the Adventure Reef Water Park. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions? Okay, seeing none, call the roll.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Mayor Laner, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to use competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes to purchase a utility terrain vehicle and rescue platform attachment. This is being requested by the fire department. The estimated cost is $30,900, and the funds available are $30,900. I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, Chief Robbins.
Thank you, Your Honor. This resolution will authorize the fire department to purchase a utility terrain vehicle, or UTV. This vehicle will be utilized by the fire department for city events such as Holiday at Home and Go Forth, and remote access to patient care on emergency alarms. The vehicle will have a patient care treatment skid installed in the rear of the vehicle, and the fire department will use underspending the operating budget to pay for this vehicle. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, anyone have any questions? Okay, please call the roll.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution to make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Kettering, State of Ohio, during the fiscal year ending December 31, 2022. Move for approval.
Second?
Mr. Schwederman.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have a number of 2022 supplementals tonight related to the many resolutions that you've already processed this evening. The first is to appropriate the funding of $500 from the Dorwood Optimist Club. The next item is the appropriation of the $9,500 from a contribution from the Kettering Parks Foundation. We will then appropriate an additional $141,000 for the Stroop and Souther Signal project, as well as $2.4 million for the Forer Boulevard project. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes. Okay, that concludes our resolutions for this evening. We will now move on to ordinances in first reading. Where did we end up?
Your Honor, I have an emergency ordinance to amend Section 476.03 of the codified ordinances regarding operation of snowmobiles and all-purpose vehicles and declaring an emergency. This is being requested by the Law Department.
Second. Move for approval.
Second, first reading.
I apologize.
No,
It's
it's,
an emergency.
I move for approval.
Second. That's okay.
Let's see, that will be Ted, Mr. Hamlin.
thank you, Your Honor. The Ohio General Assembly enacted statewide uniform firearm laws in the Ohio Revised Code, and those prohibited cities from adopting firearm regulations of their own that conflict with the state laws. And the Ohio Supreme Court said that that was legal. So while the city has been enforcing the firearm regulations in the Ohio Revised Code, there are provisions in Kettering Codified Ordinance Section 476.03, which may conflict with the Ohio Revised Code. And so this proposed amendment would resolve that potential conflict. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Your Honor, I have a question.
Yes.
Ted, could you explain in a little more detail, this is in regard, I assume, to carrying firearms on a snowmobile. Could you explain that a little bit more so that I and our audience might understand that a little better?
Yes, Mr. Duke, I'd be happy to do that. So Section 476.03 of the Codified Ordinances regulates the operation of snowmobiles and also what I'll just refer to here as mini trucks in the city. And one of those provisions, it's subsection 5, talks about transporting firearms on those kinds of vehicles. And it says that you can only transport those if they're unloaded. And that's not necessarily what the Ohio Revised Code says about transporting a firearm in a vehicle. And so because there's that potential conflict between the codified ordinance section and the Ohio Revised Code, in order to avoid a lawsuit, which the Ohio General Assembly allows against municipalities that may have ordinances in conflict, this ordinance would remove that provision so that the only regulation of firearms would be what's in the Ohio Revised Code and not what's in Section 476.03. So I hope that was clear, Mr. Duke.
Thank you, Mr. Lott, Ted. I just want to make, I'm always troubled by these kinds of ordinances because, you know, as a charter community, it's another example where the state legislature, upheld by the Supreme Court, has taken away another local rule that we might have to protect our citizens relative to firearms on snowmobiles, in parks, you name it. So I just want to point that out to those that might be watching. I find these ordinances very frustrating. Thanks for your explanation.
I would like to second that, Mr. Duke, and I'm just wondering what happens if we decide not to pass this resolution.
Well, then the section in the codified ordinances would remain unchanged, and the ordinance would prohibit transporting a firearm on a snowmobile or what I'm calling a mini truck if it's loaded. And so it's possible someone who would want to do that could challenge that ordinance, and then we'd see whether or not a judge would say that there's a conflict between that ordinance and the Ohio Revised Code.
Okay.
Or it could be no one would challenge.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think there's a problem when you read an ordinance, as I did in preparing for this meeting, and had absolutely no idea that the operation of snowmobiles was somehow being linked to the carrying of a loaded weapon. I'm going to be voting no on this amendment. Any other questions?
Yeah. This is in regards to only carrying a gun on a snowmobile?
Any vehicle.
Well, the snowmobiles and all-purpose vehicles.
So that all-purpose vehicles for the snow or SUVs?
Well, think of it as a mini truck, like a Gator or something like that. So it's snowmobiles and other utility vehicles that fall within the definition of all-purpose vehicles under that ordinance.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right. Call the roll.
Ms. Duval,
Yes.
Mr. Duke,
No.
Mrs. Fisher,
Yes.
Mr. Klepass,
No.
Mrs. Hall,
No.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Mayor Laner.
No. Okay. Thank you. Move on to the next.
Oh, that's me. So many of these things, I've lost track where you were. To amend ordinance in first reading, to amend the traffic control map and the traffic control file of the city of Kettering to show the installations of traffic signs on Maddox Drive in the city of Kettering, Ohio. First reading.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to the city manager's report, community update. Mr. Schwederman.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have a few items for you this evening. Just a reminder, Fray's tickets are on sale. You can buy tickets at the Fray's Fanfare location at Town and Country Shopping Center, as well as online at frays.com or etix.com. Our mulch at the mulch pickup site off of Stroop Road behind the kennel will be available yesterday, so we're probably out. But we'll replenish it.
It was raining yesterday.
Yeah, it was raining. That might have helped.
My wife
we will replenish and continue to stock the site throughout the summer. It's a great program for our residents. As Mr. Schussler indicated earlier today, we will be celebrating Tree Fest with some activities, and starting this Saturday at the Habitat Center and Southdale Woods. If you'd like to participate, you can contact the Habitat at 296-2477. Our annual spring leaf pickup program will take place beginning Monday, April the 18th. This is where we make a very quick run through the city to pick up leaves that were left over from the fall season. It is only leaves, no sticks, no branches. You can take that to our yard to drop-off site on Woodman Center Drive. That will be Monday the 18th, and it will go quickly, so if residents plan to participate, they should have the leaves out by 8 a.m. Monday morning. Our city income tax filing requirement or deadline is April 18th. To get your returns in, and as always, you can just come into our tax division. They'll prepare the returns for you in our north building here at 3600 Schroyer Road. Safety Village registration has begun, and if you would like to register for that program, you can contact our engineering department at 296-2436. That's for children entering kindergarten and program in August. And I believe last, but I could be wrong, our last slide is we have a prescription drug take-back program that will be taking place Saturday, April 30th at the Kettering Police Department and Government Center parking lot. And I was wrong. Our last slide is the Kettering Community Block Party. We work much better when I can see her. Right? The Kettering Community Block Party is scheduled to take place June 8th at Lincoln Park Civic Commons. So I wanted to get that date out for folks from 6 to 8 at the Fraser Pavilion, Lincoln Park Civic Commons. Always a great event, and hopefully this year we'll have great weather to go along with it. With that, Your Honor, I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions?
Well, Mark, would you add to that slide on the drug program? That's a special day that we're advertising that, but we've always got that available.
We do indeed. It is a special day, a special program, but regularly in the lobby of our police department, you can come here to 3600 Schroyer Road, go into the lobby of the police department, and there is essentially a drop-off box, looks like kind of like a mailbox, and you can put your prescription drugs in there in a secured environment.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak before council tonight? Yes, would you like to come down first? I have some instructions first, if I can find them, which I can't, but please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Thank you. 5-minute limit. You are asked to state your name and address before you start. And please go ahead. Thank you.
Oak Tree Drive East, and I wanted to bring something to the attention of the council. You may very well already be aware of this, but it has to do with parents picking up their children from Kennedy Elementary.
Oh.
There's well over 100 cars over there every day, and it's been an ongoing issue for several years, and today it finally reached my fuse limit. And I'm a retired fireman, so I got pretty thick skin. Over the years, I've been cussed at by these parents. Several times you'll find a cigarette carton or a McDonald's wrapper in my yard. Believe it or not, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I found a beer can one day when I went to mow grass. But what it is, and the city has signs posted, and I've actually called the police department, who've been very helpful with that says do not block people's driveways. They don't pay attention. Most of them do, but there's ones that don't. And then they get mad at you because you want in or out of your driveway. And like I said, today incident, I stopped, went to pull in my driveway, and the guy just sat there. So I honked my horn, and he lost his mind. He starts screaming, yelling, hollering at me. And I said, the signs in the street are posted. There are signs that say don't block people's driveway. And he said, well, maybe I'll just whip your butt. And so at that point, I'm like, okay, this has gotten to a point where I've had enough. So I want to bring to your attention, I don't know if you want to get with the school board or what can be done. I'm sure the engineering department can tell you how many cars go up and down that road. And they come up Oak Tree from both directions and down Tahitian to the back of the school. And I'm no spring chicken, but there's some other elderly people that live on those streets. One of our neighbors, they're in their 90s. I wouldn't want them to be putting up with that. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention. I don't know if you want to talk to the school board or whatever. And like I said, I know the police department's aware of it, and I know there's probably been other complaints to you. I don't know if anybody's come to a council meeting before. But I just wanted to express that to you, and I'd appreciate anything you guys could do. Thank you.
Thank you very much for bringing it to our attention. Mr. Schwederman, do you care to comment at this point, or Chief?
Sure, I'll just comment that it was brought to my attention earlier today, and I've added it to my list. I'll meet with the superintendent to see what they're doing, and then also with our staff who also work with the schools on the Safe Route to Schools program and other things. So I'll get together with him right away.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions? Okay. All right, I thought there was another hand. Come on down, oh, several. Okay, all right. He beat you to it. Okay, please state your name and address. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. My name is Andy Wilson. I live at 442 Zimmer Drive, Fairborn. I'm a former school board member of the city of Fairborn, and I also serve on the steering committee of the Ohio Coalition for Equity and Adequacy of School Funding. My purpose tonight is to talk about the recent Ed Choice voucher expansion and the lawsuit that was filed against it, as well as the impact that that has for the local schools and property taxes. So there was a 3-year process to develop a fair school funding program to finally, 25 years after the decision, go a long way towards complying with the DeRolf decision about the school funding being overly reliant on property taxes. It passed the House nearly unanimously with less than 10 dissenting votes. Included in the House version was a 6-year phase-in program, so 3 of the 2-year budget cycles to phase in the funding required to meet this plan. The Senate did not fund the plan. They adopted it, but they chose not to fund it. Instead, they increased the eligibility for vouchers and increased the amount of the vouchers to $5,500 for K through 8 students and $7,500 for 9 through 12 students, an increase of $1,500 per student, while public schools received only $90 per student over a 2-year period. Apparently, the General Assembly does not consider your students to be worth as much as voucher students, since Kettering only receives $3,368 per student, leaving local property tax owners the burden of picking up the balance of the cost of educating your students. If your schools were funded at the same level as the voucher students, Kettering schools would receive an additional $21 million per year. This is the third highest in the area and the 13th highest in the state. Why are voucher students receiving greater funding than your students? It would be a great question to ask Senator Antoni. While the lawsuit was being developed, the legislature changed the methodology of funding the voucher program. So they used to deduct the vouchers from the school district of the child's resident. Now they directly fund the vouchers from the education funds of the state. Now, Article 6, which is the education article in the Constitution, Section 2, states that no religious or other sect or sects shall ever have any exclusive right to or control of any part of the school funds of the state. So that's one of the items that the lawsuit is addressing. They feel that the direct funding to the parochial schools is in violation to that provision. Also, my own personal feeling on this, in Article 1, Section 7, which is the Bill of Rights section, no person shall be compelled to attend, erect, or support any place of worship or maintain any form of worship against his consent. Well, I certainly don't consent to having my state tax dollars go to supporting parochial schools. So if anybody would like more information about the voucher lawsuit, there's a website, vouchershurtohio.com. I'd be happy to take any questions if you're interested.
I was intimately involved in all of those discussions while I was in the state senate, and what you have said tonight is actual facts. So thanks for bringing it to us. Unfortunately, it is not an issue that this body has the power to control.
I understand that.
You understand it is a state issue.
Listening and
it is a state issue, but yeah, you certainly have made some people aware of some things. All right, thank you. Okay. Yes. Are both of you coming down, or one of you? Okay. Make your way on down. Yeah. Is there a? Yeah, there is a space there.
Get the fire. You better get the fire. You better get his all-terrain vehicle.
My name's Dave Dextrator. I live at 3621 East Troop Road in Kettering. I was invited to this council meeting by Councilor Scott, thank you, and I've been being harassed by the Kettering Planning Department in the person of Jim Tillotson for the last several months about having my RV parked in my driveway to the tune of $345 in re-inspection fees. I use the term unjust because I find it hard to believe that the City of Kettering Planning Department would be so inconsiderate of not only my status as a disabled veteran, but those of every other veteran in the City of Kettering. And to harass me in such a manner as that I've done for the nation as a whole, based on my 22 years of service in the Navy, which included 2 combat tours in Vietnam. While I'm aware the City of Kettering has several ordinances on its books governing the storage of recreational vehicles on one's own property, I'm also aware of the fact that there are no storage facilities in or around Kettering that allows any inside or outside storage of any vehicle. I would hasten to invite the attention of the council that my RV is in good repair, does not block the city sidewalks, and is contained entirely on my property and is screened on both sides by apple trees, on the east side and my pickup truck on the west. I would also like to mention the fact that my RV, while it may create the appearance that it is grossly oversized in length, is less than the maximum size stated by the city ordinance, and is less than 24 inches higher than the maximum stated in the ordinance, which is somewhat akin to splitting hairs. Ladies and gentlemen, both Councilor Scott and I opine that there is some levity due in this case, and probably those of other citizens of Kettering. With that in mind, I'm respectfully asking the City Council as a whole body and the Kettering Planning Department as well to back off from their overreaching and overzealous enforcement of the zoning ordinance regulating the storage of my RV in my driveway, as well as voiding any of the reinspection fees and the fees that attach thereto. One other point that I'd like to make, that my RV, although it may seem somewhat extreme, also serves as an alternate mode of transportation for my wife when it is necessary for me to be away from home for whatever reason. I would like to further cite the fact that none of my several neighbors object to the parking of my RV in my driveway in any way whatsoever, as it has been for the last 3 years. So with that in mind, I yield back to the City Council.
Thank you very much for coming in this evening. I think a number of us are well aware of the situation and are working to resolve it. Mr. Schwederman, did you have any comments you wanted to make?
I'd like to say, excuse me for interrupting again, Mr. Schwederman was kind enough to come to my house and state his case. So for that, sir, I thank you.
Thank you. Did you wish to come in? Okay. All right, we have another presenter. Please come to the microphone.
This is part 2 of How Do Vouchers Hurt Ohio?
Could you please say your name and address?
Oh, I'm sorry. Donna Wilson, 442 Zimmer Drive, Fairborn. I'm a retired teacher, and I am also a former city council person in Fairborn. So how do vouchers affect municipalities? When vouchers extract money from the funds for public schools, the school district must ask residents to pass levies to provide increases in property taxes to make up for the loss. Ohio residents are responsible for 72.5% of property taxes, with businesses being responsible for the other 27.5%. Citizens get weary of the many tax increases and in some cases refuse to pass new levies. And I don't know if Kettering has experienced that or not, but I do know that that is a problem for some. Inflationary rises for other needed services such as fire and police protection, infrastructure updates like sewer and water maintenance and road, may also require more money and more levies may be issued. Schools still have the same cost for providing staff, maintaining buildings, and providing transportation. They must also transport students to private schools, adding a significant amount of money to provide that service, as additional buses and drivers may be needed. And I know that there's been a shortage of bus drivers all over the state. Vouchers often promote segregation and discrimination against students of color, those of a different religion, and those with disabilities, as private schools can choose which students they admit. The extraction of money from the school district may reduce the extracurricular activities offered by the school and also require a student to pay a significant amount to engage in those activities. And this may prohibit many students who would gain skills and knowledge not taught in the regular curriculum. These activities often develop personal and professional skills that truly make a difference in a student's life. Your school district pays $14,485 to educate each student, which is slightly above the statewide average of $13,386. The state allocates $4,474. The balance is made up of your local property taxes of $9,468. Our public school students have a right to the monies that our citizens have paid through state sales taxes and income taxes for their thorough and efficient education. So when the pile of money is collected for education, when vouchers take out so much money, there's not very much left for the public school students. I've often heard legislators make the statement, throwing money at an issue doesn't solve the problem, especially when it comes to school funding. If not, why are they so fast to take it away from the public schools and throw it at choice families? And I do have, well, as Andy said, for more information, go to vouchershurtohio.com, and you can find out other information. And I do have, and I have asked other city councils to do this, a draft of a letter for city councils and school boards to write to send to their legislators and let them know that this is a problem not only for school students, but for municipalities as well. And I would like for you to please consider a letter and to send. So I don't know who I should give this to. Is it you?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for coming in tonight, and as we told the gentleman ahead of us that before you, this is a state issue, but I understand how the letter might be helpful, but I strongly recommend that you talk to your state senator.
Well, we are. And we are talking to school boards, we're talking to senators and the Speaker of the House and many people. Yeah. But it seems to fall on deaf ears until we get a lot of people going. I've been told by someone who is serving that when they get 6 letters, only 6, about an issue, they start worrying. That's what we need to do.
It took a few more than 6 to get my attention, but
well,
that's all right.
Well, I would like to see 6,000 instead of 6.
Thank you very much for coming in tonight.
I just want to also mention, given the opportunity, I think many of us would vote against that legislation here, and it is terrible legislation. So I'm glad you're advocating for letter writing, and that can be very effective and, you know, eventually could really hurt the economy of Ohio overall, and it's not fair to property owners.
Okay.
And that has been, there have been 4 cases, I believe, that the state has had.
Okay, we're going to need to move on our agenda. Thank you. We will now take city council reports and.
Anybody else?
Anybody else?
Did anyone else have something they wanted to say? To speak? Okay, gosh, all right. Did anyone else wish to come before council tonight?
No.
I knew they didn't.
No.
All right. We will now start city council reports with Mrs. Fisher.
Well, ma'am, of the 15 events and meetings I've gone to, I will tell you, much like our young leader, Chloe, that we all listened to her great service, I want to highlight 2 other great, exceptional leader events that I went to. Eagle Scout Jacob Burdick actually built some shelves in the Neighbor to Neighbor pantry, and so I did go to his Eagle Scout I guess, award and ceremony, and that was wonderful. And I will say Ascension does a fantastic job with their Boy Scouts, and they have been producing a lot of Eagle Scouts out of that troop, and so that's one event. Second event, Hope Squad went to a walk, met a group of leaders, every bit of 40 kids in our schools that are dealing with peer-to-peer mediation when there's mental challenges, suicide attempts, etc. And so it gives me great hope about our young leaders that are coming up through the ranks, whether it's, service or whether it's doing really serious work like the Hope Squad. And so great things. And over 80 walkers were there at that Hope Squad event, which was awesome. And so whether you personally observe Holy Week or Passover or any other religious observation, I want to wish everyone a happy Easter. I wore my Easter egg blue for this Sunday. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Kind of to follow up on Mrs. Fisher's comments about the future leaders and what young people are doing. Most of us had the opportunity over the weekend to attend the spring musical at Fairmont High School. And this year, it was called Broadway Odyssey and featured a lot of performers who were singing tunes from various Broadway hit shows. But the main thing, every year when we see performances at Fairmont, you think, my golly, the talent that's at that school, and how can they keep getting better? Yet they seem to be getting better and better. But what I observed after the show was over and they were doing a standing ovation for the performers, out came the orchestra. That there was more orchestra than there was performers. And then out came the stagehands. And these young people were having just a great time. They had a great time, and you think, our future's in great hands in Kettering. Keep up the good work over there at the high school. Also, I mention every 2 weeks, if you have a choice, shop Kettering. So remember that. If you have a choice, shop Kettering. But big news tonight for me was breaking news that the Golden Nugget's going to open up again, and in the summer, same family it looks like, and that's at least that was reported by the Dayton Daily News. I hope the city does confirm that will happen too. Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Kluge.
Thanks for everybody's patience with this meeting going so long, really dynamic meeting and so many encouraging things with the proclamations that were given ahead of time. I also want to I want to especially talk about Ukraine, and that I've learned since the conflict that we have several members of the Ukrainian community, not only in Kettering, but the region. And in light of the horrible things that people from Ukraine are suffering, I'm having a fundraiser at Pollen Farm next Wednesday from 6 to 8. Anyone who would like to attend is welcome to buy a ticket on Eventbrite for a limited number of tickets. And the money is going to the World Central Kitchen, which is delivering, they've already given about 300,000 meals. People have been traveling several days as refugees without food. They're making sure food gets to the refugees. And it is one of the biggest refugee and humanitarian crises in Europe since World War II. So the hunger is great, and it's going to continue to have an effect on supply chains both in Europe and North Africa. And so this is a great way to support people in Ukraine, and love to see whomever can come to be there next Wednesday at 6 o'clock, Pollen Farm. And very grateful to the city of Kettering for helping to sponsor the event. Heidelberg Brewery is also sponsoring the event, and Kettering Hospital.
Thank you, and thank you very much for your work on that.
I'll try to be brief because we are running a little late this evening. Almost 2 weeks ago, I had the pleasure to attend the opening of the Dorwood Optimist basketball event at Trent Arena. Very well attended. Optimists do great work. This past Thursday, my wife and I had the great opportunity to go to the musical at Fairmont High School. And I was blown away, as Tony said, by the talent level, the deep talent level of some of these young people. But most importantly was the young lady who was the volunteer, the young girl. I think it's a tribute to her parents to raise a child like that. And whenever anyone doubts this country, okay, we're in good hands with young people like that. So whenever you feel doubtful, this is a great country, and we have great people, and we got a great bunch of kids coming up.
I will try to be brief. There's so many things. I attended the Walk for Hope along with Mrs. Fisher and Mayor Lehner this past weekend. It was a wonderful, wonderful event. I want to thank Mayor Lehner for the proclamation for the Week of Hope. I want to remind everyone the Juneteenth celebration is coming up. It's our city's first. You can get your tickets online, ketteringoh.org. One of the best things I've done the last couple of weeks was attend the Imagining Community Symposium, which was put on by UD. It was down at the Dayton Arcade. First of all, as a non-native Daytonian, I've never been to the arcade. That is amazing. That's a beautiful place. It was a wonderful symposium that brought together a bunch of ideas about how we can move forward from the history of redlining and all of these issues that we have. And one of the best things I heard there was that while everyone talks about how polarized everyone is, that can be seen as a moment of opportunity. In that moment, you can choose community or you can choose chaos. And I think from our volunteers who are here tonight, we see the people who are choosing community. And I think it's a wonderful thing. I would like to reiterate Chloe's blood drive, because blood donation is so important. DonorTime.org, code 1624 to be part of her blood drive. And there's probably more, but that's all I have right now.
Thank you very much. Mr. Drew.
Thank you, Your Honor. I want to just add on to what Mr. Vall said regarding this Imagining Community event that was down at the arcades, really sponsored by UD. It really was an opportunity, and it's the first time that's happened. So this is the inaugural event where they tried to bring together over 2 days a myriad of speakers from around the country talking about imagining a more equitable Dayton is really what the theme was. And I got to tell you, I was not able to be there both days. I was there Friday, and I was extremely impressed with the quality of the speakers and the programming. I would also encourage anyone that has not been, I've been to the new arcade, but not upstairs or downstairs. And if you get an opportunity, citizens, to get down to the arcade, go through the hub or the Contemporary Arts Center and do your best to tour the arcade. It is phenomenal. It's a new addition. And then also everyone talked about the Fairmont Music Theater. Those kids are just outstanding and phenomenal, and it really made, I know it started off my Easter season in a very positive way. Jill, one quick question. If someone cannot get a ticket on Eventbrite if they don't have time, can they buy a ticket at the door at Poland Farm? Yeah, we can definitely accommodate them. Okay, but you want people to go to Eventbrite. I'm just saying, okay. So I just don't want people to be shut out because, oh, I didn't get a ticket, okay.
To check on Eventbrite to make sure that we aren't sold out, though.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Great. I could just sit here and go ditto, 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 but I'm going to add a couple of new things in. Mr. Schwederman and I were able to attend the Montgomery County, Great Miami Valley Regional Fly-In in Washington this week, and the real strength of that event, which is run by our own Brad Jeff Hoagland, who used to be on our city staff, is now the head of the Dayton Development Coalition. But the strength of the event is it really pulls together members of the community. We can do great things by ourselves, but we can do even greater things working with our neighbors and other communities. This is an opportunity for people to get to know each other and spend time with our federal legislators advocating for certain things. I saw the effects of that type of collaboration when I attended a meeting that was put on in Beaver Creek for the Little Miami Watershed. This is an initiative that a group of cities are pulling together to come up with ideas how we can improve the quality of the water throughout the region and what gets fed into the Great Lakes and into the Gulf of Mexico, et cetera. It all starts right here with our own little storm sewers. But at that event, it was a packed, sold-out, standing room only initiative with people from just about every community in the area. So that was neat to see. Just real quickly, I too went to the Walk for Hope, and it was awesome, primarily because of the young kids that were pouring themselves into something, a cause greater than themselves. And that night, or the night before that, also attended the musical, and you know, from involvement in activities like attempted suicide, et cetera, to putting on a world-class performance. You're right. Our kids are our future, and it was really neat to see that much on their part. With that, I think we will close out this meeting tonight. It has been a long one, but we appreciate your patience. An awful lot of things are going on around the city, which is why we are having kind of unusually long meetings. So with that, thanks for coming, and this meeting is now adjourned.